Professor Antony Gerald Hopkins holds the Walter Prescott Webb Chair of History at the University of Texas. He has an honorary doctorate from the University of Stirling and is a Fellow of the British Academy. A native East Ender, Professor Hopkins was educated at St Paul's School, London, and the University of London, where he took his BA in History in 1960. There he was awarded the Bryce Memorial Scholarship as the best second-year student in Arts and Humanities, and the Francis Clark Memorial Prize in 1960 for the best third-year written work in his department. He came to Birmingham as an assistant lecturer, an entry-level appointment that no longer exists, in economic history in 1963. He submitted his Ph.D. in 1964, an economic history of Lagos, 1880 to 1914. He progressed to the status of reader by 1988, when he moved to the Graduate Institute of International Studies at the University of Geneva as Professor of International History. From 1994 to 2002, he was Smuts Professor of Commonwealth History and Fellow of Pembroke College in the University of Cambridge, and he became an Emeritus Fellow of the College in 2002 when he took up his current post in Texas, his recent post in Texas. In 1974-5, he was a member of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, and he's taught as a visiting professor at UCLA, Princeton, Northwestern University, and Harvard, and has lectured and taken part in conferences and symposia extensively across the world. He has extensive and intensive experience of the editing of learned journals, which has been compared to the herding of cats. From 1972 to 1979, the Journal of African History, from 1980 to 1985, the Economic History Review, and from 1994 to 2003, Cambridge Imperial and Post-Colonial Studies. Between 1986 and 1990, he acted as consultant to the World Bank for the Mahdia project, managing agricultural development in Africa. It is one of the burdens that honorary graduates must bear that their CV passes before them in what must seem like a relatively short lifetime, comparable perhaps to drowning, but anyway, let's not go there just now. But the constantly recurring theme, the basis, in fact, of this exceptionally distinguished career calls for the enumeration of this extraordinary internationalism in range in Professor Hopkins's appointments and activities. It's entirely appropriate that this congregation in particular should have been introduced by the march from Aida, one of the great artistic products of colonialism, commissioned for the opening of the Suez Canal, as it happens. Professor Hopkins's meticulous, imaginative and wide-reaching engagement in the study of economic history, which has enriched his contributions to the sophisticated understanding of concepts that are all too often bandied about as political slogans, imperialism, globalization in particular, is of the first importance. He has a persuasive, lively and incisive style of writing and argument, which leavens the formidable research and thought that supports such major studies as British imperialism, 1688 to 2000, jointly authored with Peter Kane, which won the Forkosch Prize of the American Historical Association. It seems appropriate in this university and in the shadow of the clock tower commemorating Joseph Chamberlain to instance Professor Hopkins's lucid exposition of the political as well as economic ramifications of the contentious issues around tariff reform and free trade that exercised the university's great benefactor. But it is also especially important to celebrate Professor Hopkins's work on globalization, and a university that prides itself on its international standing, influence and mission to serve. In the introduction to the landmark collection of essays Globalization in World History, which he edited in 2002, Professor Hopkins identified as currently the most important debate in social sciences as being the analysis of the origins, nature, and consequences of globalization. The significance of this wide-ranging collection for all students of history and culture, political, economic, and artistic, is very considerable. Arguments in the humanities and beyond concerning interculturalism, multiculturalism, concepts of nationhood need this kind of underpinning in an appreciation of the wider and deeper historical and economic picture. The aim, to quote his words, a truly global history of globalization, is to take away the emphasis on the West, indeed the concept of the West as a governing concept and reference point for the kinds of exchange in question, and to revise appraisals of the economic and cultural processes that have shaped where we are now. This is the kind of writing, learned, lucid and vivid, that Professor Hopkins excels in, and which he has solicited from his like-minded colleagues. I cannot resist retailing one of the most striking quotations from the introduction to this collection. I hope Professor Hopkins will excuse me for this self-indulgence. As a description of the world we live in, how does the following strike you? When has the entire earth ever been so closely joined together by so few threads? Who has ever had more power and more machines, such that with a single impulse, with a single movement of a finger, entire nations are shaken? The author? Well, nobody's mentioning it, so. The author was Johann Gottfried von Herder, and the year of publication, 1774. As they used to say, and perhaps still do in examination papers, discuss. One of the pleasures of preparing these orations is that one reads beyond one's own field, dare I say it, comfort zone, and finds work in other disciplines that bear directly on the assumptions behind one's own work and that of one's immediate colleagues. The next time a student of the history of performance, which is my own field, or even one of my esteemed colleagues, hazards a generalization about cultural globalization, I shall know where to send them for the best kind of academic writing, not only on that topic, but in general, for the finest examples of argument grounded in extensive learning and a strong sense of evidence. To quote Professor Hopkins, back to him again, to apply arguments about the present to improve our understanding of the past. Vice-Chancellor, to you and to the University, I present Professor Antony Gerald Hopkins, FBA, for the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
By virtue of my authority as Vice-Chancellor and with great pleasure, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for accepting.
Oh, my honour. Thank you.
Many congratulations.
Vice-Chancellor, Provost and Vice-Principal, graduates, graduands, and indeed everyone present on this special day, which I'm glad to see has also been approved by very special benign weather. I have been asked to do something that confounds a lifetime of earnest scholarly endeavor, to be brief and to the point. I find myself, as they say, in uncharted territory. My inclination is to respond simply by saying, pass, and sit down to the tumultuous applause that such an unexpected reprieve would surely evoke. The occasion, however, demands that positive thinking overcome defeatism. I am, of course, very glad to have the opportunity to express my appreciation to the University through the Vice-Chancellor for the honor it has conferred upon me. I say this with a degree of wonder because it will be exactly 50 years in September since I began my academic career as an assistant lecturer at the University of Birmingham, as has been mentioned already. The ravages of time, ladies and gentlemen, stand unsteadily before you. Birmingham University has roots in a sturdy, vibrant, and innovative region. It has long attracted famous scholars throughout the disciplines, and it took care of me, the junior of juniors, so well that when I next looked up, 25 years had passed. It was a great university 50 years ago. It is an even greater university today. Its stature has grown as its visibility has increased. Its outreach programs have created opportunities throughout the West Midlands. Its international profile has risen as its reputation has become global. I salute my successors who have made these achievements possible while also upholding the high standards that are central to the Birmingham tradition. The past, however, gives way to the future, as my humiliating struggle with Windows 8 amply confirms. So let me conclude by congratulating you, the university's newest graduates, who are the future, on the achievements that have brought you here today. Your world, like the university's, is now a global one. Your horizons are virtually limitless. I could advise you to grasp the opportunities they present, but you, of course, have already begun to do just that. Instead, I offer you a historian's thought for today. Your deserved success is not, I hope, diminished by the observation that others have played a part in getting you from there to here. Yet familiarity, the product of passing years, can beguile us into taking for granted even the influences we cherish most. The antidote, mutual appreciation, can occasionally be permitted even in Britain. It is in this spirit that I hope that you, your family, and your friends will enjoy today to the full by reflecting a little on the past that brought you to this point, as well as planning for the future that now awaits you. Thank you.